Hello everyone and welcome to LitFilmFest Live, where we discuss a classroom topic and a brand new book to go along with it to help you build a budding reading culture in your school. I'm Tim, and tonight we are looking at parallel world fiction. Ooh, interesting bit of sci-fi and fantasy that will be modern day fantasy that we'll really delve into to help you think about how you could encourage reading or writing those genres in your school. And tonight we have from an entirely different world with us. We have Eileen Conway, author, all the way from America, across the pond. Hi, Eileen. Welcome.
Hello. Hi. Thanks for having me.
It's a real pleasure. How is the parallel world of America doing?
Hanging in there by a thread. Looking forward to a new president come January, and hopefully some vaccinations and a return to normalcy.
I feel like we live in the parallel world, and there's a more normal world out there where
exactly.
they had a lovely 2020.
We will hopefully get back to soon. Yes, yes, definitely.
Would you like to tell us a bit about what you've been writing and what children have been saying about your books?
Sure. Yes. So I have been writing stories about a girl detective called Madam X, and I'm working on my second book right now about her, which is actually set in Ireland. So it's a little bit of a different, closer to home setting for you. And basically, Madam X is it's a series about sort of a parallel universe. A girl looks down one day, they're going to school down their street, and they find another world that is existing underneath the world that they live in. And it has these creatures called thingamabobs, which are kind of in general, most of them have good intentions, not all. But the idea is that they are the sort of unknown other world that does have some interaction. They're kind of when you say, oh, I thought I put the stove off. I didn't put the stove off. And you go rushing back and you think, oh, no, maybe the house is going to be burned down, but the stove's off. Or where did that sock from the dryer go? Well, maybe a thingamabob is actually wearing it, as a hat. It's this other universe that's sort of there with your own that you're not always aware of. And the way the story actually happened is I walk my kids to school every day. And at the time they were, probably about 5, 7, and 9. And we always went by the sushi restaurant, which was owned by somebody that we knew, a preschool teacher's mother. And my son sort of threw the ball and it went, and all of a sudden he was looking and staring down, and you could actually see that underneath there was some glass on the sidewalk that we never noticed before. But if you looked down, you saw there was like a room literally underneath the sidewalk with a little table and a chair. And it was like, wow. We've been down there, right? And we've been walking over it for years with no idea. And it just made me start thinking, what is this about? What is under there? And the more research I did, our city has a really interesting group of creeks that run through it. So there's this whole other ecosystem of the creeks and these underground, all the underground of the downtown that unless you really looked for it, you would have no idea it existed.
Is that a common method that you normally take? You listen to what children like and then try to incorporate that into writing?
I think so. I mean, I think they always have such interesting ideas and questions. And I think that just really, they kind of guide the stories a lot in that way because they're experiencing things differently than we do. I think that their senses are more just open. You know what I mean? And they really there's a lot of joy. And I mean, especially in a time like now, finding joy is so important. And I feel like, yes, I mean, I remember being a child, like if you walk by a house that was abandoned, you could think of a million things that were in that house. You wouldn't think, oh, that house, sort of looks like rubbish. I hope someone fixes it up. You'd think, well, I wonder what lives in there. Is it a family of mice? Is it a ghost? So there's lots of opportunities. I do think if you listen to kids and empower them to tell stories about these other universes, that they have a lot to say, and they're always kind of thinking on that other level.
And that's part of the open questions, isn't it, for children? Who lives there is a good one, isn't it?
Exactly. Yeah, who lives there? What's under here? I mean, there's so many. If you just look around your yard or your street, there's a million things that you can wonder about. just a grate, a sewer grate, in the street. You look down, there's water down there. You put a stone through it, see if it makes a noise. Is there water there? Is there something living in there? There's just endless possibilities, which I think sometimes we forget.
Yeah, definitely.
Right.
And just on that, which themes do Madam X and the World Beneath cover, and why do you think children find that quite engaging?
Yeah, I think part of discovering a parallel universe or owning it is a lot about being independent and believing in yourself. And sort of for my character, Susan, who chooses Madam X because she feels like Susan is very plain, and Susan has very famous sort of good-looking, successful parents. This process, this discovering process, allows her to understand that she is enough and feel sort of the theme of self-worth. And also, too, I mean, another one that's related is there's a lot of environmentalism that I try to put in my work as well, because I think that's just so important, especially now, for people to understand the impact that we have on the earth, and to just keep reinforcing, which I think that kids today are so much better than previous generations in really understanding and caring about the environment. But the more we can do to reassert how they can make a difference, the better.
And nice to see it weaving through normal fiction as well. It's not so standalone now, is it? It's
exactly.
Things they want to see that and see
it. Exactly.
And just on that as well. So going into a bit more detail, what style of writing do you use to portray these concepts? How would you say you would write about parallel worlds on a sentence by sentence basis?
As far as like constructing the book, I kind of it's funny because I played a lot with this with what point of view it was in. This book actually went through so many different. It started as Johnny, one of the Madam X's best friend, his point of view. It went to a third person limited, the third person omniscient, third person Madam X, and finally ended up in the first person. I tend to write in first person because I think that kids like to hear a voice that can sound like their own. So I try to channel sort of my inner, 10-year-old and write in that kind of tone of voice. So I write sort of just very first person. Present tense is also something I find myself drawn to. I think it helps keep the action going, so it feels like something is happening right now. And as far as process goes, I'm one of those people that kind of just I just sit down and get it out without thinking about it, and then go back and edit. I mean, I edited this one book probably 30 times. And when I go and talk to kids in grade school, one of the things I do is I read them maybe 5 different versions of the one paragraph from the book, show them how important revision is, and how it's, it can seem very scary. I really think a lot of times with the kids, the reason they get intimidated by writing is this concept like you've got to make it perfect. And that's a very paralyzing kind of thought to have in your head. So I tend to just sort of sit down, write, and then deal with the editing later.
Yeah. Get those ideas flowing. That's important first.
Exactly.
Just going back to your thoughts on adding part of the environment, like which other real world issues do you tackle in some of your books, and how can writing about other worlds help you play with those ideas?
Yeah, I think that it does, because it writing about environmentalism, about about like sort of the idea of like girl power, like having a strong sense of self for young women is important. And I think writing about the parallel worlds, it's always helpful to see themes played out in things that are not exactly like you, because I think just like for adults, it's easy to tune out if you hear something over and over again. but when you see it played out in another sort of creature, it makes sense. And empathy is a really big theme, like really, understanding other people and their plights. And I think that kids naturally, have an affinity towards creatures and animals, and maybe would give them just naturally more birth than they would just other kids. But I do think that it's really about, I do, again, I think that kids today are very empathetic and very open to caring about things. And they kind of are ready from an early age, really, to deal with the real issues in the world. But this maybe makes it a bit of a fun way to go. And I do want to say too, I do like empowering young boys too. Like, it's not, I don't want to come off as that they don't care. A number of the characters in my book, that the two best friends are brothers, and that's really important too.
I think traditionally men have a lot of power, don't they? And
right.
Boys even feel that from a young age. So to say, you have to specifically say to women, don't you? You have power too, and there's no shame in that.
Exactly, and there's no shame in it. And Susan is very much the ringleader, which is nice too. She's the force in the book.
Yeah. I particularly like about parallel worlds that you've used it as a canvas to explore ideas as well, and really twist little details, don't you, straight away, and that's right. That must be quite freeing as a writer. Do you think children would feel that as well?
I think so. I think it's really fun, and because my book is fictionally based on the town I live in, when I go and talk to local schools, the kids love it because they can see things that they know and see every day. And just by changing the name of a store or what they sell or putting something crazy in the window, it just opens up their opportunities, right? So I think that it does. It's empowering, and it lets kids, I think also the thing about parallel worlds is it says, okay, you can write about something that is similar to what's going on in your world, but you don't have to have that kind of paralyzing, like you have to get it exactly right? Because I think that's another thing that can be hard for kids if they're trying to write something in the word. Oh, I'm going to say, I don't remember, is the shop store red or blue? And if I write red and it's actually blue, are people going to wonder about that? So that's really, really kind of liberating as well.
That's nice.
Yeah.
Have you seen any examples, or do you know of any teachers, maybe audience who can encourage children to enjoy reading and writing more? Have you seen how people have used your book or got?
Yeah. It's great. I mean, I feel like they do. They've done prompts around parallel worlds, creating parallel worlds, having, I like showing a picture maybe of something local that everyone would recognize, and then having people write about what's on the other side of that, what's something different, what's the hidden story. I've had a lot of the local kids will go exploring and go looking for what's sort of that spot that I wrote the story at, about, to find it and see what's under there. But yes, I think prompts about just saying, like, here's our main, here's your main avenue of your town. Tell us, write a story, what's underneath here, or, look at this specific door. Just being as specific as possible helps for the kids, letting them say, not like so like wide, like create a parallel universe. It's like, tell us what's on the other side of this door.
I love the idea of taking a photo of a local place and maybe saying change 4 things about it. Just tweak 4 ideas there, and then that's your story. That's your stimulus for your story, isn't it? And then you go into the reason why that's, and what's it like to view, though, to step into this world for the first time from our world.
Exactly. One of the things too I did in the book is I worked with a really talented illustrator, and we did illustrations, and I just love it because I feel like a lot of times with the middle reader books, there aren't so many illustrations anymore in the book. And we hid the thingamabobs in the pictures. So a fun thing too to do with the kids is they'll be looking. So they'll look at the pictures and say, okay, what do you see? Where do you see creatures sort of stepping out, or, showing here? And then also that can give them ideas as well. So like even just taking a picture and what's different about this picture gives them a chance to kind of write and get an idea from that.
That's great. Did you do that in tandem then? You wrote and illustrated together?
We did.
Very different process. How did that work?
It was great. She has has illustrated a friend of mine who's a children's book writer as well, her book, and I just loved her artwork. So basically, she would read the book, and then we would talk about where do we want to illustrate, where do we want to add pictures to it, and then she would draft it out in black and white, and then we'd work in different colors and work in where the creatures would be. So it was really fun. It was a great process, and she had lots of great ideas. And we tried to do things that were fun for kids. Like there's a scene where Susan goes in a closet and everything's falling out. And we thought, oh, this is a great opportunity to have things that are like general things that you might find in a closet. Because even there, that's a great story. And obviously, like with Narnia, who knows if you go far enough back in a wardrobe what you're going to find, right?
I think there's another story about that, isn't there? I think there is.
Yeah, exactly. And the other thing we did is we never fully drew the faces of anyone in detail. So the idea would be that the kids could kind of create their own faces and ideas.
Clever. I like that.
Yes.
Did you take any inspiration, not just from the illustrator, but from any other books or authors?
I love Narnia. I grew up I love the Narnia series. I love Madeline L'Engle, any sort of stories. And there's just so many examples in fiction. I mean, even Wizard of Oz, the entire series of people kind of being transported to a different place. I was always drawn to stories like that growing up. Even Willy Wonka, which it was a huge influence. I read that book every year growing up. Just the idea you go in this average factory and you're going down a chocolate river. I just always liked the idea of that. So yes, and Alice in Wonderland, obviously. There's so many examples, right, of characters going from just their everyday life to a different world. So it just, and even on adult, like Alice Hoffman always has a little bit of magic realism in her books, like just that dose of magic in ordinary life I've always found really powerful, and I think especially for kids they really love that.
Absolutely. Well, now it's time for our quick fire fiction round.
Okay.
Sorry to make you jump there.
I'm walking right now. The dog has been driving me crazy. Get her out of the room. Okay.
Right. Well, Eileen, you're going to give us a short reading of one of your books, and then we're going to ask you some questions about it, about that reading, and we're together live making a resource for you to use in your classroom. Or maybe not in your classroom, maybe remotely. You can even set this as an educational resource tomorrow following the YouTube link to Eileen reading and the questions as well as a little comprehension task. And we will be also putting this online on LitFilmFest.com as a resource in the future as well. So you can have it as an edited standalone resource. Okay, over to you, Eileen.
Okay, great. So I'm just reading a bit from when they actually first go down into the world. For a minute, I felt like Alice going down the rabbit hole, free and fast. But then I hit the ground hard. There was nothing cat-like about my landing. My ankles slammed sideways while poor Teddy's soft body broke the rest of my fall. My foot throbbed with pain, as bad as when I'd broken my arm on the monkey bars. But I forgot that quicker than I did the 50 capitals after our U.S. States test. Because just around the corner, out of the dark, was a place I both knew and had never seen before. It was our town, well, almost our town. It was all there, the Hobart Avenue we knew, but smaller, with half-empty, greasy-looking shop windows and restaurants with single tables and picked-apart loaves of bread. The street was paved in smooth stones that looked just like the ones you found in the creeks that ran from the hills, through our downtown and out to the sea. And the stores had names almost exactly like the ones in the world above, just slightly off. Pinky's, the nail salon, was called Toey's. Cafe Italiano was now Kitchen Yummiano. Pizzeria Pepe was now Pepe's Pizza Pie. Even the chain stores were there. J. Crew was now Suhu. The Gap was called The Lap. And Starbucks? Well, Starbucks was still called Starbucks. The clothes in the store window were oddly familiar. Men's socks, women's sweaters, kids' dusty baseball cleats. It felt like looking at the lost and found table at the end of the school year when you think that gray sweatshirt is yours, but you can't be quite sure. The bookstore window is full of all kinds of tattered books and half-used rolls of toilet paper. The bakery had topless muffins and gingerbread men missing their feet. The toy store had a wind-up monkey that looked a lot like the one the Tooth Fairy left me when I was 3. My favorite bargain jewelry store had clumps of necklaces coiled like cobras in the window. Super bargains, a sign read above the pet supplies store. Dog chews only $3,000. $3,000? There were no trees, but there were pots and pots of plastic flowers and pink lawn flamingos and pottery garden elves everywhere. There was a bulletin board with a schedule of upcoming town special events, including a strawberry eating contest and an underground idol singing show. The ceiling was painted blue as a robin's egg. Puffy white clouds, which looked like they actually might be made out of cotton, hung down above us. There was even a paper yellow sun, which looked a lot like the kite my friend Sam had left at the park during spring during an especially windy day. The only thing that let you know you were underground was the faint drip, drip, drip of the sewer that had to be somewhere nearby. It was magnificent and terrifying all at once. It was like being in the eye of a hurricane, I thought. Everything was beautiful and still, but everything was also dark and scary. Kind of like when our school made its gym into a haunted house. You could still see the exit lights and you knew you were in the gym, but everything else was so different. You were in a place you knew, a place you ate lunch every day, but somehow now it was terrifying. Like my house kind of was now without my parents there. And this place, what was this place? And why was it so quiet?
Full of mystery. Ooh, I like that. Fantastic that Starbucks is always Starbucks.
Of course, right? What else would Starbucks be?
Even in a parallel universe.
Exactly. Exactly.
Okay. Are you ready for the quick fire fiction round?
Sure. Yes.
Question number 1. What does "I feel like Alice going down the rabbit hole" mean?
I think it means that she felt like she was about to go somewhere amazing. And it just shows that she understood that something was really, really different.
Great. I'll take that as a point. Yes, correct. There's also a famous story as well, isn't there, Alice?
Yeah, there sure is. Yes, exactly.
Yeah, Alice through the looking glass. So there's a good allusion to that. What is advertised on the bulletin boards?
All kinds of strawberry picking, strawberry eating, contests, and different things. Underground Idol was also a big one.
Yeah, they're great. I love those two. What made you think of a strawberry eating contest and Underground Idol?
Underground Idol, because I've always been a big American Idol fan, and the idea of them having like a little underground opportunity, performance, I thought was kind of funny, and it kind of shows them. And then strawberry eating, because they're not that big of creatures, and it seemed like also an easy thing to grab from the grocery store or people's backyards. They're growing strawberries. Yes.
Why did the $3,000, the cost of the dog chews, why did you choose to repeat that in the text?
Because it was just, I think everything was so weird, but then I also feel like kids are very aware of the cost of things. And sometimes they can be kind of skewed, their ideas of the cost of things, but anybody is going to know like a $3,000 for a dog chew. I mean, that's just insanity. And it also showed, I was trying to show too, that the creatures kind of had, they had a bit of a skewed vision of what life was like for humans as well.
Fantastic. Now, you don't have to get all of these, but can you remember how many differences can you remember between our world and this new world that Susan falls into?
Oh, wow. Well, I mean, there's the fake sky with the cotton. There is the there is the fact that all the restaurants have different names, the fact that everything is off in the windows, like the gingerbread men have no feet. I think the bookstore with the toilet paper in the window is one of my favorite details. So that is quite different. I think there's just that slight drip, drip, drip somewhere in the distance showing that something is off. The stones are down from the river, so you can tell they kind of created their own street using materials from up above. And also, I like the idea of all the plastic plants down there too. So they're trying to make it as much like the world above as possible, really. It's kind of a charming little place, you know. There is something menacing because it's quiet. There's a menace, you know. It's like, well, it's a lot like the COVID world for kids and adults, right? I mean, there's nothing kind of more menacing or strange as when you're walking down city streets that were always so busy that are so quiet now. So that was kind of an important detail for me too. The fact that it was so silent would make it really kind of scary, even if it was, you know, kind of charming as well.
Fantastic. Yeah, it's quite eerie, isn't it? The fact that Susan says is so familiar, but so different at the same time. Yeah,
exactly.
And what was that simile that you said at the start? How you knew what you were looking in the lost and found. Can you remember what that simile was?
Oh, right, to the clothes. It's like when you're looking, you're like, is that sweatshirt mine or is it someone else's? And I think that's something kids can relate to, because it is, by the end of the year, it is, everything kind of looks the same, right? When you're trying to figure something out like that. Yeah. Right?
Is that my jumper? Yeah.
Exactly. It's actually just aren't sure, you know? And so that's, yeah.
Exactly. In the last paragraph, how could you sum up how Susan feels about seeing this new world that she comes across?
I think she is she's both fascinated and frightened. And you think about it, she's coming from a place where, like she says, you know, it's like her house without her parents is a scary place, because her parents, you know, the essence of the mystery is her parents have disappeared, right? And she's trying to figure out where they went, and it appears that this world has something to do with it. And I think that it's like, there's the natural excitement in seeing things that are so familiar and stuff, but she feels like eye of the hurricane, right? Like she feels like she's there, quiet, and everything is about to go crazy. So she's afraid. She's trying not to be afraid, but she is afraid too.
Brilliant. You passed with flying colours. Well
Thank you.
You do know your own writing. I'll give you that.
Oh, I know, right?
Yeah. Eileen, can you tell us a little bit about your book again, and where we can buy it? We'd love to find out where we can get a copy.
Yes, so it's on Amazon. You know, local booksellers, if you ask and they don't have it, they can order it and have it delivered there. And it is called Madam X. I'll show you this lovely art. I'm crazy about the artwork on it. Madam X in the world.
We can see it. There we go.
Yes, there we go. And it's just because, as I mentioned, my artist just did such a beautiful job. And it's just a story of a 10-year-old girl who is put in extraordinary situations when her parents go missing, and she has to find them, and it leads her to discovering a parallel world, and where she learns to really believe in herself and make a difference for her town and her friends and her family. So it's really about empowerment, environmentalism, and just, you know, a fun fantasy story for kids to get some escapism. And
I'm behind that. I could do with going to a parallel world.
Right? Exactly.
And you're in the process of writing number 2 as well. So this will be a series.
This will be a series, yes, and I am. I'm in the process of writing number 2, so hopefully that will be out in the latter part of 2021.
Lovely. Well, thank you so much for joining us, Eileen. It's been a real pleasure.
Awesome. Thank you so much.
I'm going to close this gap now in our universes. Here we go.
Great.
Take care. We'll see you again.
Okay. Bye-bye.
Bye. Thank you. That was great, wasn't it? Really interesting. Well, in a week's time, we'll be also dealing with sadness. So how to deal with sadness, and which is particularly applicable at this time. I'm sure you're very aware, with children's emotions and mental health, something that we have to deal with in the classroom. So we're going to have Anne Booth and David Litchfield Litchfield on to talk about their book, A Shelter for Sadness. So please tune in for that, and feel free to send in any questions that you have as a teacher, as a professional, or that your class might have as well. And also don't forget to check out online. We have lots and lots of resources that you can use. We've been producing the Quickfire Writing Challenges, especially for you and your class and home learning. We've released many of these projects for free, so your children can learn about how the world works with a simple video before writing about it themselves using the Quickfire questions. We've also included lots of other activities to keep your children engaged around this topic, so you could teach this in one afternoon. You could teach it remotely if your bubble has burst, or across a whole week's worth of lessons. And finally, we're hosting many of the Reading Rocks review projects for free this year. They're designed to inspire a love of reading across your school by simply reading a book, using the Reading Rocks review project to review a book, and then create a video review of that. They include planning, whiteboard slides, supporting resources, and videos to inspire a love of writing and reading in your class. So check everything out online at LitFilmFest.com. And that's it from me tonight. Thank you so much. I hope you all have a lovely new year. And well, let's see if schools do open again. Still not sure. The jury's out on that one early. We don't know. But I really do wish you all the best, and to your children as well. Take care, and we'll see you next week. Take care. Bye, everyone.